Redeeming the game. Redeeming the game. Redeeming the game. Redeeming the game. Redeeming the game.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Redeeming the Game podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Sanders, and today is a special day. A special day because we did this already.
Yes, we
and
did.
You didn't get to see it, and we had all kinds of things happen. We could go today, right to the day. Yep. We could go today. We had tornadoes. They went on for a long time. We were down the stairs. You don't get to see those, but down the stairs and the basement and in and out. And then the mics didn't work. And so here we are again. And just as God would have it, it is gorgeous out. Maybe this conversation will be a little tornadic, but just to shake up the whole world with the game. So I'm incredibly honored to have one of my mentors, one of the greatest leaders I've ever known, Jeanette Regier, in the house. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
It is a part of this journey with the podcast, as I've been sharing with you guys. If you've been following that, I would have people who have affected the ministry of Redeeming the Game through the game, my former players, assistant coaches, players who are now coaches. Can't wait for you guys to come on. Shout out Philip and Zach. And really excited for today's podcast. And so today I get to sit down with someone that is not just shaped our programs, but she legitimately transformed the way that I see and saw coaching, the game of basketball, but more importantly, leadership. She is passionate about the same things that I am. We joke about this often: basketball, baseball, football, soccer. I mean, we really both love all the sports. It was one of the things that kind of united us when I first got hired by you. And then what makes this conversation even more powerful is her leadership and her transformation over time through leadership. So Coach Regier, here we go.
All right. Let's do it.
So the title of this episode is More Than Wins, the legacy of a transformational athletic director. 25 years you did that, correct? Yeah, 25 years. And so I want to start it off by saying, over that time, what did you come to realize that truly defines great leadership, and how did it grow and change and evolve over time?
I think when I first started, and the first 100 days of your coaching, you go in with all kinds of expectations, and you're like, well, I'm going to say this and they're going to listen, and I'm going to say this and they're going to do. And it didn't always work that way. And part of that was because I needed to learn a lot about leadership.
Yeah.
One of the things that you and I talk about a lot is how often students growing up in college don't hear a lot and learn a lot about leadership.
Yeah.
I was told to be a leader. I was hired to be a leader, but I didn't necessarily have it broken down for me. So I learned on the job, and part of that was making a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
And so there's all kinds of principles. There's a principle of leadership about taking ownership.
Yeah.
And oh my word, is that something that you have to learn over time. There's a principle of listening to your people.
Come on.
And I can't imagine how many mistakes I made because I was trying to do the talking, not so much the listening.
Wow.
I think leading with your people, like being on ground level with your people, is so important. You're not a dictator. You're like pulling with them. And there's way more leadership principles than that. But those principles were really shaping me as I tried to really improve and try different things. And it was really cool how God used a principle that I never learned very much about. And I said, okay, let's try it. Well, he used that.
Come on.
And it helped people to be able to engage and be focused together as we work towards a common goal.
What would you say was a moment or a season in your leadership that really changed your perspective on coaching and leading as an athletic director?
Well, there's a lot of examples that go through my head, but I know just even today, the focus, God has been challenging me with transparency. And I remember a day when I realized that a leader has to be transparent with their people. And as a leader, you can't always share with people that you have it all together. You have to be able to come to them and say, I'm really struggling with this. And then later, as maybe they walk through that struggle with you, they're going to see how you gain victory over that particular battle too. And I remember admitting a struggle in the middle of my locker room and how I had made a mistake.
Wow.
I remember how transformative that was in my coaching style. My players really responded to that. So there's a lot of moments, but that's just one. Because that day after that, it was a motivational talk, and the players just responded, and they came up and they wanted to ask questions and they wanted to pray afterwards. And there was some really special things that happened because my transparency led to conversations about maybe where they were struggling. And God had a chance to do what he did.
My two buddies, Phil and Coach C, that I run with, the basketball missionaries, we often say that transparency is a superpower.
Yes, it is.
Because in any kind of leadership anywhere, what you find is the people that tend to lead with such bravado and they talk the loudest and they kind of live out loud the most and aren't willing to be fully transparent with what's going on the inside, their people don't follow them. But when you're transparent with like, I'm struggling, we're doing this, we're doing that, I'm struggling with this, or I'm going through this. And when you lead that way, people immediately are drawn to that because they're like, me too.
Absolutely.
Like it makes you feel, it brings the group together, right?
Absolutely. Even a pastor that a lot of people know, like Craig Groeschel.
Yeah, Craig Groeschel.
He leads out of abundance of transparency. When he writes his books, he talks about where he was at in a pit and how God led him out of that pit. And because he's transparent, it allows his people to be wanting to go after it and to be able to give God the same chance that he did.
So would you say that your transparency helped you build lasting trust with your coaches and your players?
Absolutely. 100%, because Christians today, in many circles, you're supposed to act like you have it all together all the time. And you know what that leads to? It leads to people who are following that leader thinking, oh, I'm not even close to where I need to be. And I'm failing at this. Look at my leader. She never fails. And so instead of building disciples that are encouraged and running to Jesus, you're building disciples that are discouraged and thinking that they'll never check enough boxes.
Wow. And do you feel like that is a direct or a secondary consequence of bringing fear? Does that response from those people who don't feel like they measure up, checkbox, checkbox, is a result of fear?
100%.
Why?
Because if you have the view of God that he is going to be looking for those boxes to be checked, and he's waiting to see if you perform before he's going to do what he does, then at that point you're going to be fearful because nothing you do is ever going to be good enough. But if you go at it from a perspective of love, that you can't do anything except he's going to lavish his love on you no matter what, then at that point it takes the fear away. And so it leads to transparency and growth.
And fear, and not to backtrack to last Friday, but we talked about this portion of what fear does. And fear brings with it, scripturally, it brings with it the anticipation of punishment.
Yeah.
Right? And if someone lives in that kind of fear, they have not fully grown into knowing that they are loved by God.
Absolutely.
Would you say that is a wonderful segue? One of the most powerful and impactful parts of your story is understanding your identity and how you really shared that. So how did understanding your beloved identity change the way you led athletes, coaches in your entire program? Let me reframe it this way. Because fear brings with it the anticipation of punishment, when you started to walk into a different identification, what does that mean for you?
I have to go back and start at the beginning, because when you look at 30 years and you look at what was your relationship with God like as a coach way back at the beginning, where is it now? There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of transition that goes on to be able to allow God to do his thing in your life. And I started out as a box checker. I started out because I was motivated by fear. I started out because I heard a lot of sermons on fear separating us from God.
Wow.
And I didn't hear a whole lot of sermons on, Jeanette, you are holy and undeniably loved by the God of this world.
Woo.
You are holy and incredibly given a chance to use that love to be able to stomp on the different sins that you might be struggling with. And you are just a minute away from being able to commune with him in a quiet time, in a quiet moment, and to be able to have him say your name. And in that moment, when everything is stopping and it's just you and him, then all of the other things that you struggle with are going to go away. It's going to go away.
Wow.
Because in that communion, he makes everything right again. So the journey of starting with maybe checking boxes and ending in beloved identity over 30 years is hard to be able to really
You're gonna unpack that in 5 minutes,
to
right?
simply unpack that.
Yeah.
But I do know now that fear does get taken away and pride gets taken
Come
away.
on.
Because your desire to impress people, it can get taken away.
Yeah.
God can take that and throw it as far as the east is from the west. You will never see it. And in a moment when we coach with such public spectacles, we coach and you're either a public failure or you're a public winner.
You're a hero.
And so you're going to love to have a chance to be able to show people that what you do is great and you're a great coach. But that's an empty feeling.
Yeah.
And that's not really what it means to be able to have God use your coaching to impact the world. And so watching how he takes that fear away, watching how he takes the pride away is how beloved identity impacts a coach and impacted me to the greatest.
Okay, so to that degree, let's just take another step forward. How did it affect how you led?
So I'm thinking of the word freedom. So you could go off the court after a really tough loss. And instead of wanting to throw things because that team made you look bad and the president was in the stands that night or whatever, you can't wait to get to them. You can't wait to build them up. You can't wait to teach them, wait to stabilize them because they're going through a loss as well. You can't wait to call them the next day. You can't wait to tell them how proud you are because they fought their tails off.
Come on.
It changes the freedom that you coach because you don't have to live in fear.
And I want to say to you this, and this is a great little pause moment here. I want to say to you coaches, I hope you hear this is the same tone that I've been giving you for 14 episodes, like that fear brings it with the anticipation of punishment. And you are not fully mature in your faith if you've not been succumbed to the love of God and what he says about you. You are righteous, loved, and redeemed. And it makes you an heir. And here's the best part of what she's talking about, that this ball was created to do that. It was created to win men for the master Jesus through the gym. And the greatest place to see that, what she's talking about, is you coach from a place of freedom. And that freedom is from fear. And the fear of, I'm not good enough, I haven't won enough. When that goes out the door, the first thing you focus on is the heart of the child, the heart of the kid, the heart of the young adult, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I want to say, if this podcast is blessing you, I need you to stop and do me a favor right now. I need you to like this. I need you to subscribe. I need you to share it everywhere. We want you to share this and we want more coaches to hear it. So let's pause and back up before we keep going. I want you to unpack what they're not going to see, which is fine because I might edit it in and I might not because I think you might be. Can you unpack what you said to me before we ever went live about what you now see through that ball and what your role is as I called you we'll call you a boulder.
In the summer of 1990, God changed my life. That was a long time ago. I didn't know how he was going to continue to change it, but I went into that summer loving basketball. Oh, I loved it. I love sports. I was already coaching and I loved coaching. I wanted to do more of it. That's the only thing that made my juices go.
Come on.
But in that summer, I saw God tear down walls. I saw him change people's lives that were totally not wanting anything to do with him. And he just reached down and he tore every part of their blockade away and he just reached deep into their hearts. And I'd never seen what I saw that summer. And I made a decision that I wanted him.
Wow.
And I didn't want anything to stop that. So a part of that decision came, am I supposed to be a missionary? I didn't want to be a missionary. I didn't want to go build a church.
Yeah.
I wasn't skilled at that. There was nothing about it that seemed good for me. And I was like, I have to do something, because living life on the periphery with God is not an option any longer.
Wow.
So at that point, I really started asking questions, talking to people. And I had a friend that challenged me and said, God gave you this love for basketball. He gave you that desire to coach, and it is up to you to use it to change the world for him. And when I realized that God gave me this love, and it wasn't something that I created, it's not something that my hard work gave, it's none of that. It was directly from him. Then I have a responsibility to use it to change the world.
Come on.
At that point, I went back and I started asking God, how can I do this? How can I change the world? Using the sport that I love. It turned into volleyball, and it turned into other sports as well, because I haven't always coached basketball. It's a transition, because at the beginning, I wasn't very good at it. I was hesitant.
Sure.
And it's okay to start with just one thing.
Yeah.
Because God will bless that, and he'll continue to grow your desire to do that. And it changed a little bit at a time. And every year you would go back and you would ask him, was that changing the world using basketball, God? I don't think so, Jeanette. Maybe try this next year.
Come on.
So I would try something else, and it kept getting a little more radical. We had times when we did worship before our games.
Yeah.
Not very many teams do that.
Yeah.
We had times when we prayed with the other team, and more than just token, like we prayed with the other team.
Yeah.
We prayed for the other team.
Wow.
We had times when we found ways to use scripture in unique ways to be able to fight a battle on the court that player is fighting at that time. It wasn't uncommon to be able to see one of my volleyball players go up to another player and quote their fight verse to them in the middle of the game, maybe a shortened version of it.
Sure.
So we just tried more radical things. And it was kind of like we were just asking God to steal our show. We didn't want to be center stage anymore. And God used that in some really cool ways. He used discipleship opportunities as a coach in some really cool ways. It probably wasn't until towards the end of my career. I think I was diagnosed with MS about 12 years ago. And I remember that day texting my team that I was going to go get diagnosed with MS. And, I was a little concerned, and I was just telling them that I'd keep them updated. And then I realized in a more significant way than ever before, but when a Christian coach teaches a player a fight principle that's going to make them successful, that same fight principle is going to be used in a life and death battle. It's the same principle that can be used in a cancer diagnosis, in an MS diagnosis, in a breakup. You have experienced the death of a player.
Absolutely.
And those fight principles come into play. But the cool thing about it is that you have this team bonded together, and they're like brothers, they're sisters. And if somebody faces that battle, Mike, it's not just the fight verses that are going to get them through, but it's community.
Yeah,
God created us to be a community and a family. So you're teaching them how important it is to find community in the midst of that. So you kind of take that 30-year period of time when I'm learning about what More Than Wins is about. And it didn't start out very good, but it kept picking up steam. And then I resigned. I had to resign because MS wasn't going to allow me to coach anymore. And it was a good decision. It wasn't one that was easy, but it was the right decision. And now, a few years later, I get a chance to sit back and watch Matt Sanders and his basketball missionaries.
Come on.
I get a chance to watch Jessica in Nebraska to be able to impact her team for the kingdom. I get a chance to watch Melissa and Shay in Colorado. And I get a chance to watch how they can use what they learned at Calvary to be able to impact the world. And I sit back and I ask God, so did we change the world, God? And he comes back and says, yes, we sure are.
And I told her when she shared this, and I think this is really important, we talk about the ripple effect, that sometimes the smallest pebble can even create a ripple that you can't see that goes to lasting. But when you imagine how you built, it's almost like a snowball effect, but more like a boulder. And what she's talking about is one little rock after another gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And now it's spanning the test of time. And
And the globe.
And the globe, and it's going across the world. And that's what the gospel, sharing the gospel with the game is about.
Amen.
So let's land this plane. You retired after 25 years as a coach and as athletic director. What do you think it means? What do you think about when you think about more than wins? What does that really mean? And what kind of legacy did it allow you to build?
So when I think of more than wins, I think of the opportunity that a coach has with a student athlete. There's so many relationships that are out there today, important.
So,
but none more important than a coach and a player relationship. And you've talked about that on some of your other podcasts. I know that if a coach comes and takes that responsibility of that player and realize that God put that player in my path for such a time as this, then at that point, as you as a coach decide to allow and ask God to work in the lives of your students and work in the lives of your team, and to be able to challenge and grow them, that your players are going to leave and they're not going to be the same, because Jesus will have changed their hearts, and Jesus will have changed their minds and their ability to fight. And they're going to make that ripple effect continue.
So we're eliminating the scoreboard. We're turning the scoreboard off here. What would you say that you are the most proud of, or a moment that you're most proud of that no one sees on the scoreboard?
In my whole career?
Yeah. Threw that one at you.
So part of when your men's basketball team won the regional championship,
Yeah.
I was in a car in Springfield, Missouri, doing some recruiting. And I had run out of the gym to be alone in my car so I could turn on my phone and listen to the game. And it was coming down. I was watching a little bit, but it was coming down to crunch time. And I won't ever forget hearing and seeing you guys win that championship. But that's not the highlight. It's part of the highlight, because after you win a championship, pride, ego, it has a tendency to really come. I stayed up till 4:00 in the morning writing a press release for the championship that you all won. And one of the things I did was I got a quote from every one of your players.
Yeah, I remember.
And when those quotes started to come in, I just lost it. Because your players were not talking about their accomplishment. They were talking about what God did in the middle of that season.
Didn't he?
They didn't talk about winning a title. They talked about him. They were letting him take center stage.
Yeah.
That was when I knew that there had been a ton of success.
And for you guys that don't know, or you haven't heard before, if you're hearing this for the first time, what makes what she's talking about even grander? The top of the top is that team won a championship winning 7 games. And I when I tell people that, every time I tell that story, they laugh. Everyone laughs. And these kids' lives, and we both feel this way, has been more than worth it.
Absolutely.
It's been more than worth it. And what God is growing through this game of basketball and in sports in general, the world, as you and I were talking about earlier, that the faith of football players last college football season was insane.
Yeah.
It's happening in college basketball. It's happening everywhere. There is a movement and a redemption coming back to how it was designed. The origins of basketball. Dr. Naismith is one of the hottest topics in the world right now, basketball-wise. And so thank you for just pouring your heart into it. And I love it as much as you do. And I'm glad that you're on the journey with me. I can't tell you how much it means to me. And this conversation will stay with a lot of people for a very long time. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So the thing that I want you to hear the most from me is that the goal is to really redeem this game, redeem it one coach, one family, one player at a time. And if this has blessed you and you're following along, but you haven't done it yet, I want you to download the 10 things that I wish I knew as a young head coach. It's free. It'll be in the show notes. And then just make sure you follow, like, and subscribe. And if this has really touched you, Matt@redeemingthegame.com, please email me. I would love to connect with you. We really, really, truly hope that this has blessed you. Okay. Great. That was perfect timing. Absolutely perfect time. It's pretty good, Coach.
What? How long?
30.
Redeeming the game. 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 Redeeming the game.